Congressman Mark Green joins us on the Murphy Show hotline to discuss goings-on in the world, some good, a lot bad. It's good to talk with Congressman Green of the 7th Congressional District. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Hey, Matt, how are you?
Wonderful. It's busy up there, I suppose, now that we're kind of back to it. Give me your take on newly elected Speaker Mike Johnson. I know you voted for him. It was unanimous amongst the Republicans. Tell me what you know about him and what we can expect from his speakership.
Well, he's a great conservative, and a dear friend, a very deep faith guy, and comes from a very red district. So I think we're going to see a lot of attention applied to the things that real conservatives really want. So, yeah, I mean, I think the world of Mike. He's incredibly bright, and as a constitutional lawyer, I think will also be very defensive of things like the Second Amendment, the 10th Amendment, the First Amendment, the ones that really matter a lot to Tennesseans. So I'm encouraged and excited for him.
What does this, I mean, obviously this took a little bit of time, probably more time than you and your colleagues in D.C. wanted to take up on it. What does it mean for the 45-day window that we had to get some of the appropriations bills passed? Where are we in that process? Are you hopeful that we can still get something done before that window closes, or what are we looking at?
Well, we're going to get a lot done. The question is will we get all of it done? Right now, we're sitting at about 50 to 60% of discretionary spending already sent over to the Senate. And the problem is the Senate's done nothing to action on that. In fact, when we sent, my committee's appropriations bill, the Homeland Appropriations bill, we sent it to the Senate, and Schumer just took off and went to China and visited Xi instead of doing his job and getting those bills voted on in the Senate. But I think we'll get at least 2 done this week. We're back next week. We're not taking any district time. We're just going to crush until the 17th, and we'll get a lot of it done. Now, what do we do? Plan B if for those bills that don't get done. I imagine there'll be some kind of a short-term funding bill that will go probably through January, because what we don't want is to be stuffed with an omnibus or cromnibus from the Senate. And so there'll be some, and hopefully we can get some policy writers in there like border security. So that's kind of, I think, Plan A and Plan B.
Obviously, many of us are watching what happens along the southern border, and we're wishing that you, as chairman of the Committee on Homeland Security, had unilateral authority to do something about it. Sadly, you do not. If you did, I don't think we would be watching what we're watching.
Not at all.
What can you tell us about the state of affairs on the southern border, and especially what it means in terms of some of the foreign issues that we're seeing in Israel and beyond, and what that could potentially mean involving terrorism here at home?
Yeah, so, I mean, the border is the worst it has ever been. We were at record numbers in September, the highest ever of everything, whether it's terrorists on the watch list or total numbers or numbers through this ridiculous CBP-1 app that Mayorkas has fabricated in order to try to justify automatic parole. In terms of the risks to, the American people, I mean, there's no way for us to know for certain that in the 1.7 million gotaways, there isn't a Hamas cell. And it's absurd to think that they, as an enemy, haven't tried to do something with the border as open as it is. So I think we have to be vigilant on that. We had a hearing yesterday in my committee on Iran and the threats that Iran poses to the homeland. They're substantial, and unfortunately, they don't care. Alejandro Mayorkas just simply does not care. The thing is that Democrats are starting to see the light as we continue to expose this stuff in the committee, and the pressure is coming on them. So hopefully as we finish the investigation on Mayorkas, we can get him out of office, and hopefully whoever goes in there behind him will do the right thing. You're right. I would give just about anything to get my own, ability to go in there and shut the border down, but I don't have that as a congressman. That's the problem.
Does it give you any solace at all? I saw a poll recently, Mark, and Congressman Mark Green, our guest on the Murphy Show, where 2/3 of New Yorkers put the blame squarely on the Biden administration with regard to their own illegal immigrant problem, their own issues involving New York City, the biggest city in the United States of America. Recognizing that the vast majority of those people polled would be Democrats, if they recognize where the blame lies, it seems to me that the truth is cutting through the clatter on the talking head media networks.
Yeah, and I think we have Greg Abbott to thank for that. You know, his busing situation, he actually has, it's interesting, and I don't know the link or I'd share it, but he has a place where people can go on and make donations to, and my wife and I have done that, to help pay for the busing from Texas to these blue sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. I think that's been probably the most profound, impact on changing the attitudes of Democrats, because the media won't report what my committee is putting out. And we've done 4 phases of our investigation, with each phase having 100 or so pages of a report. And it just, it's on Fox News and Newsmax. It's not, and you guys talk about it, but, we've got to educate the American people. As we do that, they wake up, they see what's going on, and they're getting loud.
Mark, when the president of the United States steps out days after his administration, he didn't do it himself, but his administration steps out days after the evil terrorist attack by Hamas against the Israeli people, and announced that he's calling for another $100 billion, $1/10 of $1 trillion from the Congress of the United States of America to include funding for Ukraine, for Israel, and for the southern border. What is your reaction to that? Why in the world would we combine those 3 things? I guess I could see why you would combine Ukraine and Israel funding, although I would want that separated as well. And when he talks about money for, quote, border security, he's not actually talking about securing the border, is he?
No, not at all. The policies are what needs to change. I mean, Trump had the border relatively secured. I mean, there were still people getting through, but it was significantly decreased, and not even a blip on the radar screen compared to what it is today. And the only thing that really changed were the policies. The budget didn't change. The number of Border Patrol agents didn't change. And so just throwing more money at it, is, especially in their hands, is just going to facilitate more people coming into the country. As far as the supplementals, they absolutely have to be split. The problem here is this is the problem in Washington. This is the swamp in Washington. They pin people with multiple bills like this. So, I'm green vote. So if I don't want to vote for Ukraine funding, I'd have to vote against Israeli funding.
Right.
And then the commercial against me is Mark Green voted against funding Israel, in the midst of attack. That's the game these people play. If they split the bills, we can all vote our districts, and, maybe they both pass. I don't know, but I won't, like I've said, I won't be voting for Ukraine funding until I get an end state defined and I get some transparency on what's being sent over there. So, from my perspective, dividing them is the only solution right now.
And you kind of clearly define why they tie the two together, right? So that you cannot, because obviously plenty of us who are concerned with the amount of overspending in the United States of America are all equally concerned about the lack of accountability with money going to Ukraine. And you share that concern, do you not?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm not, there have been 6 votes for Ukraine funding. I voted no on 5 of those 6. I voted yes on the 1 because the 1 was funding the recreation of a Stinger plant in the United States. That's U.S. jobs, and we need to have that plant up and running. It funded an increase in the production line of the Javelin missile. That was several $billion. It also funded the 101st Airborne Division from my district when it was deployed to Poland and Romania as a part of the response. So that's the only one I voted for, and I voted for it because of those reasons. We can't be sending money to Ukraine without knowing what the end state is. That's just foolish. It's stupid. And so define what the goal is, and then maybe we'll consider it.
It seems to me, talking on the Israel front, it seems to me that there are 3 ways, Mark, that the United States of America can assist Israel. One would be militarily, and I don't know of any serious discussion about sending American troops over there. They seem to have that handled through the IDF. Two is money and materials, and we already give a decent amount of money to Israel and provide material support to Israel on an annual basis. And the third and most important component to me, and I'd be curious your take, is our strength as a superpower around the globe to prevent other nations who are hostile toward Israel from entering into this war. And I don't know that our president has the strength or the fortitude to accomplish that task right now. Speak to that, and am I on target with the three ways that we can support Israel in this war?
Yeah, and that latter, the way I would define your latter of the three is deterrence to escalation. So
sure.
We can, as the superpower on the planet, be a deterrent to escalation, and I think that's the presence of the two carrier groups, the extra Air Force fighter wings, and the deployment. I mean, we have deployed some Army assets near there, and so, and of course, beefing up the security of our military that's in Iraq and Syria right now, which interestingly enough have been enduring Iranian-backed militia groups' drone attacks and missile attacks. So, yes, I think that they're making the right steps on that level. In terms of committing our troops to the fight in Israel, that's very unlikely, and I don't think any American would want that. There may be some very technical, special skills that are small in number in Israel that. Because the casualty rate might be very high, we may be asked to assist them in that particular, unique specialty. But beyond that, no, I don't see American forces getting on the ground there.
I would, before we go, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the events that happened in Lewiston, Maine last night. It's very, very early on in this situation, but obviously this brings to mind the clear and present danger that some mental health issues that we have in the United States of America, how they can come to local communities at a second's notice, at a moment's notice. Any opening thoughts on the conversation that clearly we'll be having over the next coming days and weeks regarding what happened in Lewiston, Maine last night?
Well, we have to get in there and do a root cause analysis. First, let me say, to the families, they're in our prayers, and it's a tragedy. I just can't even fathom, thinking about it. But we have to, and we have to do a root cause analysis, find out what happened. The system so the question is the mental health care system adequate? And if it's not adequate, what do we need to do? The system may be adequate and just failed. Maybe he saw a doctor or his reserve unit didn't refer him, to mental health services, or we've got to figure out what happened, and then we can make some assessments. What I do know at this point is that this summer's unit was deployed to the military academy at West Point. He never actually went on to West Point except for when he was sent to the hospital. They got him. He had barricaded himself in a barracks and then moved him. The unit that he was with, the reserve unit, sent him to the hospital. They referred him to a psychiatric facility. That facility held him, I think it was in July, for 2 weeks. He was then discharged to his unit and then returned to his unit back in Maine. And so, what happened after that? Did he get released inappropriately? We don't know. Did he get follow-up care when he got back home? We don't know. And those are the questions that we need answers to. Was he on medication that was appropriate or inappropriate? Those are the questions we just don't have the answer to, and speculating would be unfair.
Congressman, before we let you go, I want to circle back to Washington, D.C. politics for just a moment and ask you one direct question regarding what might occur over the next 30 or so days. Can you foresee any scenario by which you would vote for an omnibus spending package, should it come to that?
No, I don't see myself supporting any omnibus unless they put border security on it. Because border security is costing us, our phase 4 showed that it costs the country about 200 and something billion, anywhere from 200 billion to about 400 billion a year. And so if, let's say, for example, they have a small number of the budgets, maybe it's, I'm trying to think of one of the smaller ones, but you take one of the smaller ones and you stick something on it. And if it's let's say it costs us $10 billion that I wouldn't want to spend normally, but it saves us $200 billion because we've stuck border security on there. I mean, that's $10 billion worth spending because we'll save $200 billion. The RO, any businessman in America would make that call, right? So it's all about what it looks like. But, from a general policy standpoint, I usually vote against those. In fact, I think I have every time.
Serving Tennessee's 7th Congressional District, it is Congressman Mark Green joining us. Mark, always good to catch up with you. Anytime you've got some time, we love talking with you, and we'll do it again very soon.